Leigh, and we have a severe weather update for this afternoon and evening. We're going to be looking at severe storms arriving here in northeast Wisconsin. I'd say that time frame is really going to be between 4 o'clock, so starting in about an hour up until about 10 o'clock for tonight. So let's just take a little bit of a closer look what we have going on right now on our storm tracker. Just right after 3 o'clock, we have a line of storms developing right along that border of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Those storms with some tornado warnings already in effect for those areas. You can see a lot of lightning with this, and also within the past 5-10 minutes we have those storms develop right along La Crosse area, so right on that border area. We have a front trying to push in, and that is going to bring in those storms to our area here in northeast Wisconsin. So actually right now we have that tornado watch that has just been expanded. Looks like within the past 5 minutes that has expanded further eastward towards northeast Wisconsin. You can see much of our counties are under that tornado watch up until it looks like those tornado watches are under effect until about 10 o'clock tonight. So keep that in mind. We are under a tornado watch for much of the state. It looks like the tornado watch is also in effect out west until 8 o'clock. It's going to be expanded further eastward a little bit later as those storms try to pass through. So here's what we have going on. Storm Prediction Center does have us under the enhanced risk. That's that orange color, level 3 out of 5. So when we have a level 3 out of 5, that usually means that we're talking about all severe weather threats on the table, and I would say that is definitely on the table for today. So not much has changed from what we issued yesterday, what we were talking about yesterday, to now what we're talking about for this afternoon. So still under that level 3, and really what that means is main threats are going to be hail and also damaging winds. Those black lines you see here, that's that hatch area where it's more likely you're going to see hail size 2 inches or more in this location. So where those black lines are, that's what we call a hatch area. That's what we're looking like for today. And now here's that wind outlook. Still going to see an enhanced risk for wind in our area. So again, that still has not changed. But in terms of a tornado outlook, what we're talking about is that a hatch area covering areas of central Wisconsin all the way towards areas such as Appleton and Oshkosh. Greenbay is just outside of that hatch area. Now, this does not mean Greenbay is not going to see a tornado. Still possible, but what it does mean, areas that are in that hatch area are likely going to see a tornado outbreak of an EF2 or higher. That's where those ingredients are more likely for that situation to occur. So keep that in mind. So even areas such as Rylander, Greenbay, La Crosse, even though they're not in that hatched area, you can still see tornadoes that will develop. So keep that in mind for this evening. We got to talk about timing. I'd say anywhere between 5 o'clock for northeast Wisconsin is where we're going to see severe weather arriving in our neck of the woods. So again, we have those storms, and remember, developing right along the border currently. We're going to see that pushing over, I'd say right around 5-6 o'clock for our neck of the woods. So definitely by 6 o'clock it should try to approach areas such as Oshkosh and Appleton. Definitely going to be over central Wisconsin. It could arrive a little bit earlier since we're already seeing some of those storms developing along Minnesota and Wisconsin. So as that pushes over towards northeast Wisconsin, I'd say it's going to clear out before 10 p.m. Now, again, these storms looking like a line of strong winds and hail. So even though it's going to be a line of thunderstorms, this can still be severe warned. So the concern with that, we could see those straight line wind damage as being the main threat along with the hail. But that does not mean we can't get a tornado that's embedded within this line, because sometimes what you can get is some of those thunderstorms within that line. You get kind of these discrete supercells. So basically a storm that kind of diverts off that line, and that could also potentially spin up as an isolated tornado. So that's something we're watching out for this evening. Winds will pick up as that line tries to move through. But notice once we get into 9-10 o'clock, a lot of those thunderstorms try to move out of here. So I do think before 10 o'clock, we are going to be in the clear of most severe weather threats. So it's really going to be right around that evening commute hours. So if you're heading home from work, we're talking about thunderstorm threats in the area. It should mostly be cleared out for most of northeast Wisconsin, cleared out of Door County after 9 o'clock or so. So definitely going to be drier once we get into the later parts of tonight. So in terms of severe weather index, we are going to be high for this afternoon from 4 p.m. all the way up until 8 p.m. That's where we're really seeing that key time for those storms arriving in our neck of the woods. So as I said, winds and hail, that's the big threat. We could see some heavy rain with some of these thunderstorms, but I do think it's going to be brief. Any heavy rain showers that we do get, and isolated tornadoes, not quite off the table, but as I said, primary threats, winds and hail between 4 to 10 p.m. with that enhanced risk at a level 3 out of 5. Now, here's your safety reminders. If you live in a home, where you should take shelter during severe weather, especially under a tornado warning. So remember, a watch is we're watching for a tornado that could develop. A warning means that it is happening now. There is a tornado on ground, and that's when you should definitely be taking shelter. When you have a watch issued, you need to be actively watching the weather and watch for that potential for a tornado to develop. So if you're in a house, your best place is really going to be the basement. Now, some homes, not every home has a basement. So if you don't have a basement, bathroom is going to be your second best bet if there is no window. Now, if you have a window, knock that bathroom out. Just don't stay in there. Your actual best bet is actually going to be that most interior room, whether it's the stairs or a hallway, away from any windows, because if there's strong winds, you don't want the glass breaking into the room. Now, also, there's people who live in apartments, so go to the lowest floor if you can. So if you have access to the basement in your apartment, you want to make sure you head to the lowest level of the building. And if you can't do that, sometimes that's not always the case, you want to move inward as much as possible. So put as many walls between you. That's really going to be that safest bet. So if you can't get to a basement in an apartment building, even if you're on a higher floor, you want to make sure you have as many walls surrounding you, whether that's a bathroom or even a closet. That's really going to be your best bet in terms of a shelter with severe weather and a tornado. So looking at the storm tracker currently, just recapping that, we have a tornado watch currently in effect. That's shaded in yellow here for much of northeast Wisconsin. We do have those storms developing along the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin right now. It looks like it's just starting to try to move into the state of Wisconsin over La Crosse and areas such as Grant County. It looks like there's some tornado warnings also in effect with that. So this is moving in from a front. Now, if we're already at this time right now, just after 3 o'clock, seeing some of those thunderstorms, I'd say right around 5 o'clock is when a lot of that's going to try to enter that central Wisconsin and even here in the western parts of northeast Wisconsin. So I'd say that's a good bet. Right around 5 o'clock, we should start seeing some activity locally. So again, keep in mind that's going to be during a lot of people's commute home from work today. So if you can get out a little earlier to get ahead of those thunderstorms, that's your best bet. Otherwise, you need to have a safety plan in place.